everybody, welcome back to another Fallout 76 Developer Deep Dive. I'm your host, Haley, and brand manager for Fallout 76, and this week we're sitting down with a few members from our development team to bring you all the information you need to know for our next content update, Atlantic City, America's Playground. In the first half of the Atlantic City adventure, players explored the faded glitz and glam of the boardwalk, rolled the dice at the casino, and mowed down the overgrown threat. Coming to you on March 26th, we'll be revisiting Atlantic City with even more quest content and rewards. In addition, we're also introducing changes to our seasons that will allow you more freedom in choosing the rewards you want to earn. Joining me to talk about all that and more are our developer guests. Joining us for the first time, let's start off by welcoming quest designer Stephanie Zachariadis. Why don't you say hello and give us a random fun fact about yourself?
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I've been at BGS for about 2.5 years. And I suppose a fun fact is that I used to be in the Fallout modding community, which is how I transitioned into game design in general. I used to be the head writer of Fallout London and did some work in Miami, as well as some of my own solo mod projects for Fallout New Vegas back in the day.
Our next guest is a familiar face. Welcome back, senior quest designer Ellis Tan. Ellis, hit us with a fun fact.
Hello, very happy to be back to talk a bit more about Atlantic City. My fun fact is that I happen to be the lucky human of the best dog in the world. Her name is Belle. She is now 16 years old and still trekking like a champion. Sorry she can't join us today. She's very old and has a lot of important sleeping to do.
And last but certainly not least, you may recognize our final guest from previous dev dives giving you the scoop on scoreboard enhancements. Welcome back, senior monetization designer Jesse McLean.
Thanks, Haley. Thanks for everyone for having me back. Excited to talk about the new things that the Seasons team has been working on. Fun fact for me, since my last visit here, I have started playing competitive Pokemon cards with my 2 kids.
Now that we've got the introductions out of the way, let's jump right into Atlantic City, America's Playground. In our first adventure to Atlantic City, we were introduced to some of the vibrant and eccentric residents of the area and the factions controlling the city. Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about some of the characters and conflicts that we'll encounter in Atlantic City this time around?
Sure. So there's going to be some continuation of what we've seen in part 1. So we got to mostly see the Mafia, otherwise known as the Family, and the Showman on the Boardwalk. Those dynamics are definitely going to continue into part 2. But there's also a third faction that we didn't get to see a whole lot of in the first installment of Atlantic City, which is the municipal government, often shortened to the Munis. They're basically the Good Samaritans of Atlantic City. They're the faction that essentially keeps the lights on. They make sure everyone's safe and healthy and fed, and also they control the overground threat in the sense that they keep them out of the city. Although unfortunately the Munis' main operating district, which is the flooded city center, is pretty much the primary location which overgrown tend to spill into, given its proximity to the Pine Barrens. In terms of new characters that we're going to see, there's going to be some familiar faces. Some people may remember Buttercup as the main antagonist and boss fight of tax evasion, and we mostly got to see him in his power armor and not in his full aggressive glory. Furthermore, we have Mayor Tim, who is mentioned quite a bit in our previous installment, but now you finally get to see him, talk to him, and do a bit of work for him.
It's always great to have friends in high places like Mayor Tim. However, it seems like there are quite a few background characters in Atlantic City making moves as well. Ellis, are there any other stories that we can explore?
So the biggest one is the story of the glamorous Russo family, who has fled to Appalachia on the run from Atlantic City, and they've sort of decided to bring the glamour with them by opening a nightclub in Appalachia. They'll soon find out that this doesn't work out as smoothly as they had hoped. Their pasts are following them. All 4 of the family members has sort of a tie that is potentially coming back to bite them. So we'll get to explore each one of those individual stories, as well as figuring out how to deal with their current crisis. And it's definitely a story about family, about sacrifices made for family or at the expense of family, and consequences. So very excited to share that.
Awesome. So speaking of the Russo family, you mentioned that they currently live in Appalachia. Players noticed some changes to 2 existing locations in Appalachia back in our December update. In particular was the Ingram Mansion. Ellis, what can you tell us about the decision to rework this location in particular?
Well, the Russos are very accustomed to living the high life, and the closest they're going to get in Appalachia is a big, expensive mansion. So they sort of just chose this place. They cleared out the cultists, and they've built out their nightclub on the bottom floor. This nightclub is now known as the Rose Room, and it'll be advertised with flyers at train stations and the White Spring Refuge. If you attend opening night, you'll get to catch a cool performance in progress. You'll meet Vin, who's the eldest son of the family, and he has his hands really, really full.
Well, it sounds like the Russos can't quite leave their past in Atlantic City behind. Will players have other opportunities to learn more about the family in this update?
We have 4 main quests, including the one I just described. And during this quest line, you get to assist the Russos with their current crisis, which is the addiction of the youngest daughter, Abby. And she's found herself under the affliction of a dangerous chem known as Devil's Blood. And so we need to return to Atlantic City to find help for Abby. And in doing so, we slowly unravel a lot of family secrets. We learn a bit more about Evelyn Russo, the mother of the family, who was a performer in Atlantic City. And she is sort of imprisoned by this insecurity, this idea that she has to get the spotlight back. That leads us into our finale quest, Sins of the Father. As the title implies, we learn a bit more about Antonio, the father of the Russos. Stephanie, is there anything else you'd want to share about the finale or the story as a whole?
Sins of the Father is mostly about the relationship between Abby and Antonio at its core, and the fact that she really hasn't felt like he's been much of a father to her.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of complex family relationships that folks are going to uncover and explore. I think players will be really excited about that. And, there's generally plenty of reasons to revisit Boardwalk Paradise with these main quests that you talked about. Are there any new areas that players haven't explored yet?
There is one new district that we haven't really seen in Boardwalk Paradise, and that is the Flooded City Center. This is the epicenter of the municipal government, but that doesn't mean that you won't find mafiosos and showmen just kind of wandering around there, as well as just regular civilians. As mentioned, all of these spaces can be explored off mission just whenever you want. You can also catch a glimpse of our new expeditions mission that we have coming out with America's Playground called the Human Condition. And similarly to how tax evasion is the family's mission and the most sensational game is the showman's mission, the Human Condition really ties into the municipal government, in which Mayor Tim, who is somehow always calm and collected in the face of crisis despite everything being on fire, wants the player to literally put out fires, make sure the overgrown do not essentially destroy everything and everyone, and finally clear out the community center, which was a sort of hub for everyone in the Flood City Center to gather, which has basically completely been taken over by the overgrown and is no longer accessible to them.
Well, it sounds like Mayor Tim has quite a lot to be handling this time around. So when players aren't dealing and working with Mayor Tim and the Russo family, what are some of the other kind of characters that we'll meet in maybe some of these side quests?
So one of the side quests we have, Region of the Dead, gives the player the opportunity to be a sort of private investigator. They are hired by Fabio to figure out what's going on with the leadership of the family in the terms of where's Quintino? Why does Concerta have so much power? And can someone else possibly have that power? Ultimately, what we wanted to kind of do here was to give the player a lot of choice in what happens. So you essentially decide the fate of this faction, and there are some consequences around the world depending on what you choose.
Over on the boardwalk, we have a slightly suspicious fellow by the name of Saltwater Sam, who has a side gig working as a janitor for the showman. I will leave that at that. Back in Appalachia, there's an eccentric journalist by the name of Jack Hunter who has gone missing while writing a piece on the Blood Eagles. So if you go looking for him, you'll find you may need some interviewing skills, which is a super fun and unique dialogue sequence in our game.
Where can we meet and interact with these characters?
So you can find them in the White Spring Refuge next to our man Jeremiah Hopkins, who is advertising Atlantic City. He now has a bulletin board next to him where you can pick up flyers for any people who are in need of help.
I think players are going to be really excited to see some of these Mafia storylines play out. They might remind folks of some certain award-winning films. But what kinds of new rewards can players expect to earn as they go through and complete these stories?
If you complete all of the main quest, you will get the pieces of our brand new civil engineering armor set, which grants a combat bonus when you have all the pieces equipped. Mods for the new armor set can be earned by completing any of the 3 Atlantic City expeditions, or they can be purchased for stamps at Giuseppe's Curios. We also have a variety of new camp items and outfits. I'd say as you're going through Atlantic City, keep an eye out for any fashion that you like, because there's a pretty good chance that you might be able to earn it as a quest reward and take it home yourself.
Thank you both for giving us a look at what we can expect in America's Playground. Stephanie, I believe you had a story or two that you wanted to share with us.
There's a variety of different characters you could write in the Fallout universe, given that some stick to a more serious, dramatic tone. There's also some other favorites like Billy Belt Buckles and Buttercup, whose names had a rather unusual origin. It's often easier for me to work from a name and then create the character from that name. I had asked a few people like, hey, does anyone have a name for a mobster? And the lead QD, Josh Moretto, had replied and was like, what about Billy Belt Buckles? What Josh meant was just a guy who wrapped belts around his hands and would punch people with the buckle. What I heard was a man who was obsessed with belt buckles. And that's basically how that character was born.
Bunch of coincidences and misunderstandings brought to life something magical.
The magical magic of video game development right there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Jesse, are you ready to share some upcoming season changes with us all?
I am very excited to talk about the changes that are coming to seasons and what was previously known as the scoreboard.
Let's start off at the beginning with a little refresher. What exactly is a season in Fallout 76 and how do players participate?
Seasons are content that comes out with our major patches. Each season tells a different story and has a bunch of rewards that Vault Dwellers can unlock by completing challenges. For players that aren't in seasons regularly, the flow works as you go in game, you complete daily and weekly challenges. Challenges earn you score. Score earns you ranks. And every rank you hit on the scoreboard unlocks a new reward. That was the old way. Today we're going to talk about the new way of doing things.
So currently, players are used to seeing a themed scoreboard, like Rip Daring's Cryptid Hunt, in the visual style of a board game. How is this going to change, and can you tell us about the rationale behind that?
This is changing to a page system, where we do lose the scoreboard, but the team very much wants to keep that Fallout look and feel. So each season will still be very thematic. It will still very heavily feature Fallout lore and Fallout characters. One nice thing about this system is it allows us to go post-war. Before, all of our board games were pre-war. We're really excited about this. It's going to allow us to tell different stories and seasons and tie to in-game factions. As a teaser for future seasons. The main reason we did this was we wanted this season to be more visual. Right now, you have to inspect each asset. You don't get to see the rewards as well. Now, with Seasons Refresh, you're going to be able to see the rewards front and center, big pictures. It's really going to allow you to go, oh, I want that new camp item, or oh, I didn't know that power armor skin looked like that. And the way that players are going to unlock these rewards now is with tickets. Tickets are a new season currency that we're putting in the game, where before, when you earned a rank, you got the reward. But now, when you earn a rank, you get tickets. Once they've unlocked that page by progressing through the season, players can use tickets to choose which rewards they want on a specific page.
So what happens to those folks who do reach the end of the scoreboard?
For players that don't know right now, when you reach rank 100, the rewards don't stop. There is a set of consumable items that players will unlock in what we call our post-100 ranks. That is not shown on the scoreboard. With our new system, those rewards are shown on the scoreboard. I would definitely check out the bonus pages to see the awesome new in-game items, camp items, player vanity items that players can unlock. They're really good stuff. And for players who do like to get through the season very quickly, we hope that this system gives you a reason to play just a little bit more.
So while all players will see benefits of this new season system, can you tell us about the benefits that Fallout First members will be receiving?
Fallout First players will be able to access the premium content of the season, much like they could the bonus rewards in previous seasons. Fallout First members will have access to our new Seasons Pass as long as they have an active Fallout First membership. But Players who are not Fallout First members will now have the opportunity to purchase the Season's Pass with atoms and then unlock anything that is a premium reward within the season. This gives all players the ability now to access things that were previously locked in seasons.
So more reward options, but really the same experience that folks have been familiar with. So for folks who are excited about collecting the game board every season, what can they look forward from a collectible perspective?
One of the things that we wanted to do while keeping the Fallout look and feel of our seasons was continuing that tradition. So while it won't be a game board anymore, we do still plan on having assets like the Commemorative Stein and also the season's background as a poster in your camp so that players can show off their progress in seasons for years to come. This is one of the most exciting changes coming to Fallout 76 seasons since I joined a few years ago. Cannot wait for everyone to see the visual rewards. Cannot wait for people to be excited to unlock the key assets of each season and build them in their camps and equip them on their players.
So folks love the themes that we tie in every season. Can you give us a hint about what story players can uncover through this upcoming season?
I can, and I hope players are as excited about this as I am. One of our favorite season characters is making a return. Rip Daring is coming back to Fallout 76 and is going to America's Playground to encounter the duel with the devil.
I personally love all of the pre-war kind of comic book characters and stories and lore. Why I love putting together this season's artwork. So really excited to see what kind of rewards players will be able to earn this March.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, folks, so much for joining us today to discuss America's Playgrounds, new quests, characters, and locations, as well as the exciting new changes coming to seasons that will offer more flexibility for earning rewards. Just a reminder that Atlantic City America's Playground will launch on all platforms on March 26th. Thank you for joining us for this dev dive, and we'll see you in Atlantic City.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.